Here's what's ahead in today's Frontline compilation. Ukraine's K2 drone unit unleashes a string of brutal FPV strikes, smashing trenches, wrecking vehicles, and hunting Russian troops in the open. The footage even captures a rare nighttime thermal drop in action, but can their defenses withstand it? Footage from Ukraine's drone operators shows a Russian UAZ Bukhanka crammed with troops suddenly become a target. As the kamikaze drone bears down, soldiers scramble to escape, but how many make it clear before impact? Footage from Ukraine's 63rd Mechanized Brigade follows Russian troops draped in so-called anti-drone cloaks as they cross open terrain. These cloaks are meant to hide heat signatures, but do they really stand a chance against a hunting FPV? The answer comes quickly. GoPro footage from Ukrainian troops captures a hidden Russian ambush drone, carefully laid along the roadside to catch passing vehicles. The soldiers spot it just in time and fire from their moving vehicle, but can they neutralize the threat before it reacts? This is real footage. No effects, just raw moments from the battlefield. Subscribe to stay updated on every Frontline report, and stick around to see it all unfold. Let's get into it. A Ukrainian kamikaze drone flies over the Saratov oil refinery, scouting the area to locate Russian positions. The operator maneuvers it carefully around the complex, trying to identify key targets. After a while, control is lost, and the drone descends into the refinery. Moments later, a blast erupts on impact, halting operations. Kamikaze drones are single-use aircraft that detonate upon reaching their target. Refineries contain pressurized units and storage that are vulnerable to fire, so even limited damage can trigger shutdown procedures. Reconnaissance drone footage from Russian sources shows a Ukrainian-operated Tu-S-22 Bodana self-propelled howitzer being destroyed in the Kherson region. Sources say reconnaissance drones located the gun and enabled Lancet loitering munitions to be deployed against it. Lancet drones are small UAVs, carrying a warhead and guided to a fixed target. The video focuses on the strike sequence and aftermath at the firing site. No casualty details are given. Footage shows a quadcopter dropping a modified 40mm grenade onto the top of a Russian BTR. The drone operator appears to have aimed for the open hatch on top, but the grenade missed and detonated on the roof instead. The BTR catches fire after the blast, sending thick smoke into the air. The sequence highlights how thin roof armor on older troop carriers is vulnerable to even small-shaped charges. The clip does not show crew outcomes. Reconnaissance drone footage from Ukrainian sources captures a MiG-29 streaking over Yunikivka in the Sumy region, delivering precision strikes on Russian positions. The target area centers around a solidly built structure, possibly a church or government building, flanked by two abandoned, partially destroyed buildings, reportedly being used as makeshift bases by Russian forces. Two explosive impacts hit in rapid succession, sending smoke and dust billowing across the site. Footage released by Ukraine's Pentagon UAV battalion of the 225th Separate Assault Regiment opens by showing a North Korean 140mm M1982 mortar in Russian hands, giving viewers a clear look at the weapon. The video then cuts to a Ukrainian FPV drone tracking the mortar's position and destroying it. The M1982 is an unconventional towed artillery system developed by North Korea in the early 1980s. With a rare 140mm caliber, between the more common 120mm and 160mm systems. Its limited deployment and export make it an unusual piece on the battlefield, highlighting North Korean influence in the Russo-Ukraine War. Footage from Ukraine's Azov Regiment 3rd Assault Brigade opens with a vehicle engulfed in flames as a strike hits, sending a towering column of fire into the sky. The sequence continues with repeated attacks on Russian tanks and armored vehicles, most hidden in camouflaged positions beneath nets and foliage. The footage ends with an FPV drone attack on a moving armored vehicle, closing out the sequence. Drone footage shows a Ukrainian kamikaze drone closing on a Russian UAZ Bukanka van loaded with infantry. The soldiers notice the threat and start to dismount. Many soldiers spill out of the doors and rear, which makes the van look overcrowded. The evacuation is slow, and not everyone clears the vehicle before the hit. Because some are still in or next to the van when the strike arrives, serious injuries are likely and deaths are possible. The video does not confirm outcomes. The sequence ends as the strike arrives. Reconnaissance drone footage from Russian troops with the 200th Motorized Rifle Brigade captures Ukrainian IFVs in an open field near Bakhmut under heavy artillery fire. The clip opens with a strike hitting an armored vehicle, which keeps moving despite the blast. Another round hits a second vehicle trailing behind, while the first tank continues to advance. A closer drone view then shows Ukrainian soldiers fleeing across the field, some stumbling as they try to escape the moving vehicles. The 200th Motorized Rifle Brigade, part of Russia's 14th Army Corps, is normally specialized for Arctic operations, suggesting either Russian forces are stretched thin or planning renewed pressure in Bakhmut once the ground hardens. FPV drone footage released by Ukrainian sources captures a Russian quad bike navigating a narrow path, likely transporting supplies across the battlefield. The drone, lying in wait along the route, spots the vehicle and its two riders instantly, closing in for a precision strike. Because both men are aboard, serious injuries are likely, though the clip cuts before showing outcomes. Ukrainian operators appear to have anticipated the route, placing the drone in position for an ambush, highlighting the growing sophistication of battlefield targeting. An FPV pilot from the 102nd Territorial Defense Brigade's Cobra unit follows a Russian BMP for a short stretch, flying low along the tree line beside the road. The trees hide the drone and help it blend with the background while it closes the gap. This cover keeps it out of the crew's view until the last moment. The FPV pilot then turns in and strikes the BMP before the crew can react. Sources indicate the hit likely caused severe injuries to the crew. No other vehicles are visible. An observation drone quietly films a Russian soldier struggling to haul himself through a narrow window into a makeshift hide. Unaware he's under watch, he finally manages to crawl inside, only for Ukrainian operators to release an FPV drone seconds later. The FPV follows the exact same path, slipping through the window and detonating inside. The confined space magnifies the blast, blowing out the walls and collapsing the roof. The entire structure crumbles in a cloud of dust and smoke, leaving the soldier inside almost certainly killed. GoPro footage from Ukrainian troops shows a vehicle packed with soldiers carrying out a drive-by on a Russian ambush drone. Gunfire pours from the moving truck as dirt, and debris kick up around the drone. Ambush drones like this are often hidden along supply routes, left switched off to avoid detection, and only powered on remotely once a target passes through their sensor. In this case, the Ukrainian fire doesn't let up until the drone is successfully hit and explodes, clearing the trap before the team continues down the road. Reconnaissance drone footage from Russian sources captures a strike on an Ukrainian airfield. The video holds over the open ground in night view before a large detonation erupts, sending smoke and dust into the air. The airfield reportedly contained 3 short-range aircraft used against Russian reconnaissance assets, and an Iskander-M missile was launched to destroy them. Some reports also suggest the airfield wasn't just an airstrip, but also a staging point for reconnaissance drones targeting Russian units. Phone footage from inside the Yelabuga drone factory in Tatarstan captures a long-range Ukrainian strike. A Lyuty drone hits a Shahed storage area roughly 1,300 kilometers inside Russia, igniting a major fire that spreads across the facility. A second strike lands moments later, intensifying the blaze. The video then shows nearby roads, where civilians and vehicles are panicking, moving in all directions. Local reports say the attack caused a significant fire and halted production at the factory. A Ukrainian soldier moving up toward the fighting is shocked to spot a man in a kayak happily fishing while a battle goes on around him. He can hardly believe someone is so calm at the front line. But the kayaker keeps casting his line, clearly not wanting to miss a good bite. It's a strange, funny sight in the middle of a war scene. Footage from the Ukrainian Signum Battalion shows FPV strikes against Russian bunkers along the Limansk front. The camera follows drones into trench lines and onto bunker roofs, with hits landing on entrances and firing points. The edit stays on approach, impact, and rising dust. The sequence continues down the line to additional positions, suggesting a planned series of attacks. We watch for another drone turning into the next bunker. Drone footage released by Ukraine's K2 unit captures a string of strikes on Russian positions. The sequence begins with an FPV drone slamming into a trench, throwing dust and debris across the line. Following segments show direct hits on vehicles and clusters of troops. Some are knocked down instantly while others are left wounded and struggling to move. Several vehicles are destroyed outright, with a number of them set ablaze. Most of the attacks are carried out by FPV drones, steered in real time through onboard cameras. The compilation closes with an FPV drone closing in on a tank and striking it, the footage lingering on the vehicle as the attack lands. Russians continue to deploy e-scooters near the front, with deadly results for those riding them. The footage alternates between a high-angle drone tracking the soldier across a narrow path and low FPV perspective following closely. The first drone maintains constant observation, while the FPV moves through the path, keeping pace with the rider. Moments later, the FPV hits the rider directly, and the high-angle view captures the impact as he goes down. Drone footage from Ukrainian forces captures an FPV strike on two Russians riding an ATV with a small trailer. The FPV trails them along the track for a short distance before closing in. The passenger notices the incoming drone and jumps off just in time, an action that allowed him to survive, while the driver, unaware of the threat, remains on the vehicle and takes the full impact, losing a leg. The clip ends with the passenger and another man carrying the injured driver to a safer spot, with no further footage of the aftermath. A Russian soldier in Volchansk rigs a TM-62 mine to throw like a satchel charge. He moves into position, carefully preparing to launch it toward a Ukrainian emplacement. But before he can complete the throw, the device detonates in his hand. Smoke and dust erupt across the area, obscuring the scene. Timing is critical. Misjudging the fuse or moving too slowly can trigger a premature blast. The video lingers for a moment on the scene, showing the area shrouded in thick smoke. Drone footage shows a series of Ukrainian HMMWVs targeted by Russian FPV drones. The compilation alternates between close-up strikes and follow-through shots, capturing multiple attacks along the route. Each drone detonates on contact, damaging engines, tires, or crew areas depending on the hit. Ukrainian sources report thousands of HMMWVs have been supplied since the war began, used for transport, command, and medical runs. HMMWV stands for High Mobility Multi-Purpose Wheeled Vehicle. Drone footage from Ukraine's 63rd Mechanized Brigade opens on a Russian soldier crossing open ground wearing an anti-drone cloak, only to be struck by an FPV drone. The next clip shows another soldier passing under the tree line, also wearing the thermal-reducing poncho, when a drone attack triggers a massive explosion. Anti-drone cloaks are heat-reducing ponchos meant to lower a body's thermal contrast, but they are largely a placebo handed out by unit leaders. While they may offer minimal protection against infrared sensors, they do nothing if troops aren't trained to move through concealment or are forced to cross open danger areas, leaving them fully exposed. Ukrainian drone footage from the Kherson region opens in thermal view, showing a Russian patrol clustered in thin tree cover. An initial munition strike scatters the group, forcing them to flee in different directions. The drone operators then target pairs of soldiers moving through the trees, hitting them one by one. The view shifts to normal camera as the clip continues, showing repeated attacks on wounded troops across the area. After a series of strikes, the footage lingers over several Russian soldiers lying motionless or incapacitated. Russian source footage shows two FPV drones engaging a Ukrainian-operated International Max Pro MRAP in the Seversk area. The first drone hovers above the vehicle, scanning and tracking it carefully before closing in for a strike. Moments later, a second FPV drone attacks from the opposite side, hitting the same MRAP. Following this, the video switches to a Lancet loitering munition striking a vehicle, though it's unclear if it is the same MRAP or a separate target. Russian state media releases drone footage showing Ukrainian infantry exposed on open ground near Klishchivka as accurate artillery rounds rain down around them. Soldiers scramble for cover while the camera holds a wide angle, capturing each near miss. After the third strike on the right, one soldier can be seen pushing himself into a kneeling position. The surrounding terrain offers little protection, and the footage provides no clarity on casualties or evacuation. That's today's raw footage. No filters, no fluff. Subscribe and drop a comment if you want more frontline reports. Thanks for watching.